Wait a minute. Rainbow Beach River Rock. I wonder if there's any pretty rocks in here that might tumble up. Maybe. It's not that expensive. Maybe I'll take a chance and buy a bag and see if there's anything that'll tumble up. Yeah, I think I will. Should be interesting. Okay. It's hard to see in the bag exactly what I'm getting. I mean, they look like they're already well rounded, so they shouldn't take too long in rough grit. We'll get this home and we'll take a good look at it, maybe wet them down, sort through them, see what looks like worth tumbling and what's not. All right. So I hope I haven't just wasted $17, but Rainbow Beach River Rock. The name is suggestive. Hopefully, the rocks in here are colorful. Let's have a look and see what's in here. I've seen these there before and wondered about them. Right off the bat, there's a good-looking one. Look at that. That's interesting. I wonder what some of these are, though. Will they tumble up nice? That's interesting. I mean, they're already been river tumbled. Look at that. There's some interesting colors and patterns here in some of these rocks. I just hope that they will tumble. You know, because my recent experience doing my driveway rocks in Wyoming, I found that, well, some rocks, you know, tumble better than others. And that some rocks can't be tumbled. That's pretty plain. And some rocks shouldn't be tumbled with other rocks. That's got some nice veins of something in it. That would be interesting if it polishes up nice in the tumbler. So, yeah, there's a lot of plain rocks here that I wouldn't bother trying to tumble. But, you know, I'll use them to fill in a low spot in the yard. All right? What the heck? They won't go to waste. But, oh, what's this? Yeah, that's got some veins in it. This looks like this might be jasper. So it looks like I'm going to have to sort through these rocks and see. You know, I wouldn't try to tumble that. That looks like gneiss. And I had the worst experience with gneiss. Apparently it is untumbleable. So I'll have to sort through these and pull out some that I think might be nice for tumbling. That one might be nice. And hopefully they will play nice together in the tumbler and polish up nice. Ooh, an interesting one. Yeah, so I will sort through this and I'll make a pile of rocks that I want to put in the tumbler, and we'll take a look at them before they do go in. So here's a look in the bucket of the rocks that I'm going to tumble. Yeah, some of these have really interesting patterns, really interesting colors. This one right here is fairly purple, but it doesn't really look like it on video. Yeah, and I selected a lot of rocks that are already well polished in the river. Some of these already have a heck of a polish on them just from rolling around in the river. So they should take a nice polish, I'm thinking, in the tumbler. Now that's not to say that I know for sure all these rocks are going to polish up nice or that they're going to play together well in the tumbler. I did learn from doing my driveway rocks that some rocks just aren't going to tumble up good, and that sometimes they can shed particles that will ruin the polish on the other rocks. So it's very possible that we may not get a good polish on this stuff. I guess we'll just have to try it and see. If we get towards the polishing stage and some of these rocks are looking problematic, I can always pull them out and polish the rest. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So here's an example of some of the rocks that I rejected, okay? Get them wet. Some of them I rejected were quite colorful and had interesting patterns, but I mean, this one looks like nice. This one looks like nice. I rejected anything that looked at all like nice, even remotely, because, you know, the nice just does not poly. You can't tumble nice, and it will ruin the other stones in the batch with the particles it sheds during polishing. So, you know, no nice. Anything with lots of pits and holes in it, stuff that obviously was not taking a good polish in the river, I figure is not going to take a good polish in the tumbler. So, and a lot of rocks that were just plain, you know, not pretty enough to be worthy of tumbling. So that's what I sorted out. That's what's in this bucket down here. I would say easily 2/3 to 3/4 of the rocks from that bag wound up down here in the reject bucket. But I'll tell you what, something else. Sorting this stuff proved to be pretty darn quick, actually. Once I got the rocks all wet, I could really sort them a handful at a time. Just pull the keepers out of my hand and throw them in this bucket, and then dump the rejects all down in this bucket. So sorting them was not that difficult and pretty darn quick. Okay, so here's the keepers. Let's get them in a tumbler and get them tumbling. Okay, so let's get our rocks tumbling. There's a lot going on over here at the tumbler station. I've got some rocks I'm tumbling for my stepson in my 4.5-pound Lortone tumbler here. My big homemade high-capacity tumbler back there, I've got 2 6-pound drums on it full of rocks that I collected out in Wyoming that were tumbling. And I think our Home Depot rocks are a good job for my brand spanking new, to me, 12-pound Lortone tumbler drum here. I got this off of eBay. It came just the other day. I got it used off of eBay. But the seller said he used it one time. She, I'm not sure. Used it one time. Said it's just too heavy when it's full of rocks and water. He's elderly. Didn't want to continue using it because it was just too heavy. I mean, it looks brand spanking new. It really does. It's like a used car some little old lady traded in who only took it to church on Sunday every once in a while. So I mean, it's like it's got low miles and great condition. So gonna put our Home Depot rocks in here. And this is not by any stretch of the imagination filling up this 12-pound drum, but it's good we're going to have some room in there because during later stages of the tumbling, I'm going to put in a bag of scrap Brazilian agate that my friend Jim gave me. He is a master of all things lapidary, and he says this is the best tumbling media around. So during later stages of tumbling, we'll put some of this in. I don't think this is going to need to be in rough for very long because most of these rocks are really rounded and river polished already. So I think the rough stages of tumbling are going to go really quick. I think we'll be into pre-polish and polish, you know, fairly soon, much sooner than these back here, which have been going for about a month now. So yeah, much sooner. So let me get some grit and some water and we'll get this thing started up. Okay, in goes some water. I don't know if I can get the lid off. There we go. That looks like probably enough. And some rough grit. I'm going to put in a fair amount. This, even though we're not filling this tumbler up too much, it's still more than I normally tumble at once by a fair amount. I mean, yeah, this would certainly overflow one of those 6-pound tumbler drums back there. So let's get the lid on. He said he used this thing once, but I'll tell you what, in some ways, this thing looks brand spanking new. I don't know. I'll break it in now. Yeah. It's not going to loaf around in my place. This thing's probably going to be working most of the time. I've got a lot of rocks that need tumbling. So as soon as these are done, this thing's going to get reloaded with a bunch more. Okay, move these over a little bit, get this on, and hey, there we go. All right. Now my high capacity rock tumbler is being used in the capacity I meant it to be used for. Okay, so we'll just let these go, look at them in maybe a week, maybe even not that long, because like I said, they're already, most of them, are very well rounded. So I don't think they're going to need to stay in the rough tumbling stage for too long at all. We might be into medium grit pretty darn quick. Okay, we'll see. We'll take a look at them in a while. All right, it has been 6 days. 6 days. And I'm going to dump our Home Depot rocks out and take a look at them. Now, I had a peek at these a couple days ago, and I said, you know what? These rocks, for the most part, were already pretty well rounded before I started them. And I'm thinking in a couple days, they should be ready to move on to medium grit because they don't need to be in the rough grit for a long time. I said, well, they could probably go another day or two, and then I'll change them out. Well, I was scheduled it for yesterday coming out here and changing this out, but it rained cats and dogs all day yesterday, and I didn't feel like coming out here and dealing with it in that weather. So we're going to do it today. I figure an extra day didn't hurt anything. So I'm going to take these over and dump them out and wash them off. And we'll take a look at them under the lights in the lab and see how they look. I really think they're ready to move on to medium grit. But we'll take a good look at them. Well, as per usual, my camera is not rendering the colors of these things as nicely as they actually are. But maybe you can see some of the patterns in them. I mean, some of these look pretty plain, but they've got some patterns in them that show up when I rotate them. That's got something interesting going on in it. Look at that. Wow. And yeah, these look like they are definitely ready to go on. I mean, this one was pretty rough compared to the others. I mean, a lot of these were well rounded. I remember this one. This one was a little more angular and sharp cornered. And I think just beating against the other rocks in here for 6 days, it's ready to go on. These all look pretty good. Oh yeah, look at that pattern in that. Nice. Little, I don't know, what is that? Pudding stone? What is that? Somebody leave a comment and let me know. All these little polka dots in it. Yeah, I think I chose well from the Home Depot rocks. A lot of these look really pretty. Nice patterns. They're polishing up nice. I think they're going to polish up nice. Certainly, after being in rough grit, they look pretty good. And definitely ready to go on. Okay, so let's get these in medium grit and get them tumbling again. All right, let's get these back in here and get them tumbling. I think this is going nicely. I think we got some pretty rocks here. I can't wait to see them finished. So we'll see. This might not take very long in medium grit either. These rocks look pretty darn good really quickly after rough grit. It may not take long in medium grit, so we'll see. I got some 220 here. We'll check on them again. Well, I'll check on them again after a few days and see how they look. And when I think they're ready to move on, oh, one more in. We'll take a look at them before they move on to pre-polish. I'll bet they'll be really starting to look pretty by then. At least when they're wet. Although I noticed as these were drying out, even drying out now that they've had some time in the tumbler, the colors and patterns are much more vivid on them. even when they're dry, than they were before we started. Okay, let's get this back up on here. Make some room. Everybody squeeze over. And there we go. We're back up and tumbling again. So I'll look at them in a few days. And I'm thinking probably no more than a week. They're going to be ready to go on to pre-polish at the rate things are going. So, okay, we'll see you in a while. All right, our Home Depot rocks have been in medium grit for 5 days. Going to take a look at them and see if they're ready to go on to pre-polish. I looked at them a couple of days ago and thought, you know what, these look really good. But I decided to let them go a couple more days, thinking that, well, 3 days just wasn't enough in medium grit. But I just wanted to make sure all the scratches from the rough grit were gone. So left them in there a while longer. The stuff tumbling over here in these other two tumblers, the two 6-pounders, this is stuff I found when I was rockhounding in Wyoming. And I'll put a link to the rockhounding trips in Wyoming in the upper right. And this stuff is finally in cerium oxide polish. And I looked at it the other day too. And some of them are getting really, really pretty. So they'll be done soon. So I may have a reveal video on those in the future. There's a lot of neat stuff in there. There's agates, there's jasper, there's banded iron. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Petrified wood, you name it. It's gorgeous. Okay, so let me get this drum off. Ugh. And I will dump this out and clean the rocks, and we'll take a look at them under the lights at the bench and decide if they really are ready to go on to pre-polish. Okay, so let me get work on that. Okay, here we are. I'm sure they're good and wet. I'm sure they'll be dull when they dry out, but when they're wet, they are pretty. I think I really chose well. There are some really amazingly good-looking stones in here. Oh, yeah. I saw one in here. See if I can find it again. It had like veins of gold in it. I'm sure it's not gold. Probably, I don't know, pyrite or something. But yeah, these are really pretty, and they are really super slick and smooth. So I am thinking, yeah, they are ready to go on to medium grit, or to pre-polish. Yeah, pre-polish, that's where we're going. Why can't I find that one rock I saw when I was cleaning them up? Well, there's too many rocks here. But yeah, they are, oh, there it is. Look at that. Zoom in on that a little bit for you. I'll get good focus on it. It's got like veins of gold in it. It's a very pretty rock. Very pretty rock. Yeah, I chose well when I sorted through that bag of rocks. I mean, there's a few in here that are pretty dull and plain. But who knows what detail may come out when they're finally polished. So let me get these back in the tumbler, and we'll get some pre-polish on them and get them spinning again. Because if they ain't spinning, they ain't getting pretty. Okay. I'm gonna put these in gently because I don't want to nick them up now by dumping them in there roughly. You know, I might knock some corners off or put some pits in them. Kind of interesting. That is too. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff here for sure. I mean, I could see where during the rough tumbling some pieces did come off, but that's okay. We're just going to add to the load here when it comes time to polish, because I'm going to have to put in some extra media for get a good polish. It always pays to read the label. I almost grabbed the wrong grit. I almost put them back in medium grit here instead of pre-polish. Well, not quite cover the rocks with water. Put in some grit. Fair amount. It actually takes less once you get to the finer grits, because each spoonful has more grit in it, more pieces of grit. Okay. Pick up at tumbling again. Oh, almost lost my washer. That would have been bad. I have others. It's just a fender washer. Yeah. If you lose your washers, you can go to the hardware store and get a fender washer. If you lose your nut, don't buy another expensive Lortone nut unless you need one with the groove in it, like this one over here rides in the groove. On my setup, that doesn't matter. You can use pretty much anything, a wing nut, or I found some knobs with quarter 20 threads in them. I use those rather than Lortone's expensive. Oh, do a little tumbler maintenance over here. My belt broke, so let me find another belt and we'll put it on, and then we'll get this up and spinning again. Yeah, this tumbler, of course, is homemade, and I had a lot of trouble trying to find a belt of exactly the right size to go between these two pulleys. These um, vacuum cleaner belts work, but they're under a lot of tension, so they do break from time to time. But usually, I get a month or so out of them, sometimes more, before something bad happens. And someday I'll find the exact size belt I need, probably. And we're off. So we'll look at that again in maybe another week or so, and see how they look. See if they're ready to go on to polish. They might be. All right, so our Home Depot rocks over here have been in pre-polish now for the better part of 2 weeks. I've had to go out of town. Wife and I bought some property up in North Florida, and we've been up there looking at it and working on it. So this has been sitting here tumbling a little longer than I planned, but that's okay. There's really no penalty for staying in pre-polish too long. I mean, in these finer grits, the rocks aren't going to keep getting smaller, really, and they're just going to keep getting smoother. But I'm here for a day or two, so let's pop them off and see what they look like, and see if they're ready to go on to polish. So I will dump them out, clean them up, and we'll take a look at them under the lab lights. All right, here they are, all cleaned up. Some of them are looking really pretty already. Of course, they're wet. The polka dots on that. That almost looks like moss agate. That is moss agate. Holy cow. Now that I'm cleaning it up, I can see what I got there. There's some pieces of Brazilian jasper in here. Off camera, I threw some of that in just to make up some of the volume, since these rocks got smaller after the rougher grits. And I will put in some more before we go to polishing, just to keep the volume in here up and make sure that there's enough material in here for these stones to rub against and against each other to get a good polish going. But wow, these are looking really nice. Really, really nice, I have to say. That almost looks like banded iron. That almost looks like banded iron formation. Huh. Wonder where they got this river gravel from. There is a wide variety of stuff in here that you don't generally see all in one place. Maybe it's a mixture of gravels from different locations. That is a really pretty rock right there. The colors in that, I'm sure my phone is not doing it justice. It's just full of subtle pinks and oranges and ambers. It's beautiful. Yes, I would say these are definitely ready to go into polish. There's the one I like so much with all the little, almost like gold, almost like veins of gold in it. That is beautiful. These are turning out so nice. So nice. Get hold of that one. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, so let me get these back in the tumbler drum, and I'll throw in some more of this Brazilian agate just to add to the load, so that we don't underpopulate the drum too much. And we'll put some polish on them and see how pretty we can make these rocks from Home Depot. All right, I've got all the stones back in here. So I'm going to I added a little bit of Brazilian agate to it, kind of off camera when I checked on this partway through the the pre-polish, but I'm going to add another bag of it. This stuff came from my buddy Jim, who is my mentor in all things lapidary. And I'm probably still underfilling this drum by quite a bit, but everything seems to be working good, so I'm not going to change anything. My smaller drums are all full of other stuff, so we're just going to hopefully keep the good times rolling here and get a good polish on these, I'm hoping. So I've got some water in there, just basically up to the top of the rocks. Got some cerium oxide polish here, which, well, I'm almost out of this stuff. I might as well just dump it all in, I guess. That's probably enough. Fear not, though, I have plenty more. Again, for my buddy Jim in Phoenix, he gave me a big thing of cerium oxide, so I am well stocked on that. But that's probably enough to get things started. Okay, there's the lid back on good and tight, and we are ready to get this thing rolling again. And we'll check on it again in a week or so and see how they look. Hopefully nice and polished. We'll see. All right, just gonna let it run. All right, just to keep you guys up to date with what's going on with the Home Depot rocks, they'd been in polish for about 3 days, and I wanted to take a quick peek inside. And what I saw was, yeah, some of the rocks are starting to take on a nice shine, but some of them were staying really, really dull, and were not taking on a nice shine. So I pulled out the ones I saw that were staying dull, because I'm afraid these might shed particles that will keep the rest of the rocks from shining up. I don't know if that's showing up. The only part of this thing that has any kind of shine on it is whatever's in that little vein through there. The rest of it's very dull and pitted. So, yeah, my experience doing my driveway rocks from Wyoming was that some rocks will shed particles that will prevent you from getting a good polish on the others. So I may look at it again in a few days, and if I see any other dull rocks like this, I may pull them out too. Oh, I also put in a little extra tumbling media. One of my other tumblers was done with finish, so I used the tumbling media that was in it and dumped it in with the Home Depot rocks, just so there was a little bit more volume in the drum. And that media had been doing finish work in another tumbler, so if it retained any grit, it would have been the polish, nothing coarser. So it was a mixture of more of the scrap Brazilian agate and a little bit of the plastic bead type media. So that's what's in there now, along with our Home Depot rocks. So I didn't have my camera here, so I didn't show you, but next time I peek at it, maybe I'll set up the camera and show you what's going on. Well, I think our Home Depot rocks are about as polished as they're going to get. They've been in this drum in cerium oxide for a couple weeks now. So I think it's time to dump them out, clean them up, and have a look and see what we've got, whether it was worth the effort or not. Alrighty, so how did we do with our Home Depot rocks? Well, I got them out of the tumbler, cleaned them off really good, dried them off. These are all dry now, and we're going to take a look at them. I have sorted them into 3 different piles. This pile over here are the rocks that took a pretty decent polish, okay? This pile over here is rocks that don't have a very good polish on them at all. They're somewhat polished, but they don't seem to be getting any better. And this pile down here is rocks that aren't polishing. So, well, at least not polishing well. Some of them have areas that are polished on them, but for the most part, they're pretty rough. So, let's take a look at some of these individual piles. Yeah, these are the rocks that took a pretty good polish. And some of them are actually quite pretty. I mean, the pattern on this one's nice. Somewhere in here, I mean, this one here, this looks almost like Unikite. Um, and that took a really nice polish, which is interesting because I've had a little trouble with Unikite polishing it with other rocks, but this one looks nice. This one, I don't know where this came from. This is definitely not a Florida rock. This looks like banded iron formation. So, yeah, I don't know where they're getting their gravel from, but it's got an interesting mix of rocks in it. This one here, this one here is quite pretty. It's got amazing colors in it and patterns. Some of these rocks, like I say, they polished up nice. They're just kind of plain. Nothing special about them except now they're shiny. Here's a piece of agate, polished up nice. And yeah, these have all got a pretty nice polish on them. Here's a piece of rock with a lot of little yellow-green spots on it that's got a nice polish on it. So yeah, some of these rocks are nice. Some of them are small. I think some of these are chips off the bigger rocks that broke off during the rough polishing stage and then went through all the other stages. And some of them got small because, well, that's on me. That's my fault. I've done a lot of traveling in the months that it's taken to polish these rocks, okay? And it has taken a couple of months. Sometimes I'd turn the tumblers off while I was gone, and sometimes I'd forget and leave them on. And I think the stones got quite a bit smaller at some stages just because, well, I was traveling and I left the tumblers on. So, anyway, yeah, these rocks, these turned out nice. Got a couple of big ones here with some interesting patterns in them. In areas, most areas they're pretty plain, but so okay. This is a nice green one down here that's really shiny. But okay, so that's the stuff that polished up. Here's the stuff that just really isn't taking a good polish. I mean, some areas on these rocks have a nice polish on them, but other areas are quite dull. And this one here, yeah, this one's never going to polish. Some areas on it are quite shiny, but in between those areas, it's undercutting really bad, and those undercut areas, they're just not polishing. Some of these might benefit from going back in for a while in polish, or maybe even taking them back to pre-polish and then into polish again for a while. That's a possibility. I'd have to sort through them and find the ones that look like they should be able to take a polish. And maybe, like I said, going back to pre-polish with them and then back to polish. Some of these might just, I don't know. They didn't seem to be getting any better. I would stop and look at them from time to time, and I would see that, oh, yeah, okay, this stuff's looking nice. And, well, this stuff, okay, it's kind of getting a polish, but it really just doesn't seem to be getting any better, no matter how long I leave it in polish. So they may or may not improve if I put any more effort into them. So I don't know. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Should I try maybe putting these back in pre-polish for a little while and then back in polish and see what happens? Leave a comment. Let me know. And then we got this pile over here of stuff that just is not taking good polish. Some of these rocks have areas on them that are polished. Some of these rocks are not polishing at all. Some of these rocks are slowly disappearing. But yeah, these are not taking a good polish, and I don't think they ever will. Just from the porosity of them, the texture of them, I just don't think that these rocks are ever going to take a good polish. Which is a shame because some of them have really interesting patterns in them, and some like this one, the yellow veins in it, those are polishing, but the rock itself, not so much, you know. So these over here, they've actually these two I thought were going to turn out to be pretty rocks, but what's happening is they've got a hard like quartzite area on them or something, and that's polishing. But the rest of the rock is just slowly disappearing, and it is not taking any kind of polish at all. So, yeah, those didn't turn out so good. This really has no polish on it at all. No polish. There's a few rocks in here that are just totally dull, not even attempting to polish. Rock like this one here, pretty dull on this side. Actually trying to take a polish on that side, but you know, it's only half polishing. This one here, this one here is kind of a special case. It's kind of like Swiss cheese. It's got a lot of holes in it. Um, and the area between the holes is kind of trying to polish, but the holes, I don't know. Maybe I should have put this one with the other pile, but yeah, this one might also go in the other pile. It's trying to polish, but it's just not getting there. And this one here, I think this is a piece of granite. Granite doesn't like to polish because it's full of minerals of all different hardnesses. So anyway, there's our Home Depot rocks. And was it worth the effort? Well, that's a good question. I think that I think if you're just an obsessed rock tumbler like I am, yeah, it's worth the effort. $17 and some grit and some time. Yeah, got some really pretty rocks out of it, and learned a few things. So I'm thinking in the future, if I need a whole bunch of Home Depot landscape rocks for around the house, I will just pick through them and pick out the really pretty stuff that looks like it's going to tumble up nice and set that aside for tumbling, and then just use the rest of it for landscape rocks. So, yeah, I think it was a worthwhile exercise. Let me know if you think it was a worthwhile exercise. Let me know if you're planning on duplicating this exercise. I'd love to see your results. So leave a comment. Let me know. Email me, whatever. Let me know. And, hey, make a video of your results and put it up on YouTube for everybody to see. Well, I hope you found this video interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever. So give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see my future videos. There'll be more videos on all aspects of lapidary and rockhounding. So subscribe to see those future videos. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye.